have lost Aswin for the moment. So we will swap the agenda around. So we'll now hand over to Daisy, who's going to talk about switching from blended to digital-only international student recruitment strategies in a fast-moving pandemic situation. Over to you, Daisy.
Thank you very much, David. Okay, normally you can see my screen. Let me see.
Yeah, we can see that well.
Yeah. Open this. Okay, hi everyone. So my name is Daisy. I work for the Vrije Universiteit Brussel, and we are a Dutch-speaking university in Brussels. Well, I am part of an international recruitment team, so we specifically recruit international students for our English programs. And we use a very blended way, but now because of the pandemic, we actually had to switch to a digital-only strategy. So I will talk a bit more about this. Quickly about my university, Vrije Universiteit Brussel. We are a medium-sized university, very international-minded. We have around 18,000 students, of which 24% are actually international. So that's a big bunch of them. And when we are looking at the split between non-EA students and EA students, so from the European Economic Area, we actually see that it's quite evenly spread. So from this, you can already gather that we as an international recruitment team, we do not focus on one single market. And I think that was definitely a plus during the pandemic. We have around 50 English taught programs, and the biggest bunch of them are our English taught master programs. And we see here a little graph to show you actually how dependent our English taught bachelor's and master programs are on international students. In our English taught master programs, almost 70% of our students are internationals. So with the pandemic happening, our programs did realize that this could be a very big problem because our classes are all on campus. And if students are not able to travel, then that might be a problem for the amount of students in their classrooms. So they definitely started knocking on the door of our international relations office and our team and wondered what we could do to actually have some damage control. One of the things is definitely looking into what can we still do marketing and recruitment wise. So some information is just like Katalin did before the pandemic, we use a very blended way. So we use online portals where we list all our English programs. We use some recruitment agents in agent-dependent regions still. We did physical fairs. It's very important to put an emphasis there that we normally did just physical ones. We use our partnerships where we give presentations at our partner universities. We have incoming, outgoing delegations and so on. And that's also linked within our alumni events. When we're going abroad, we like to actually connect with our alumni. And we also have on-campus summer schools. Now, with the pandemic, all of this wasn't possible anymore. So no participation in recruitment fairs whatsoever, because we only were used to really doing physical fairs. We had no experience or limited experience with virtual fairs. We didn't really look into it. And for us, we also just decided not to use any budget on it because we didn't know really how it would work. And on top of that, of course, it was a very uncertain time. We didn't have all the answers that the students were actually demanding from us. So it wouldn't really make sense for us to go and stand at a fair and present ourselves. Then we rather spend our budget on some more marketing and replying to the questions once we had the answers to them. We obviously had no outgoing incoming delegations, no physical get-togethers with alumni or on-campus summer schools. We had a few online ones, but that was really a small number. What we did do was focusing more on with our recruitment agents. I think we were very happy that we do work with some agencies to have some closer contact as well with certain students and understanding even more what some of their problems were. So it was really communication from both ways, as understanding what the concerns were, which we could take as a recruitment team higher up as well. We were represented at many meetings, and I think that might be very different depending on the size of your university and the way you work. But I think we were very lucky that we were involved in different kind of meetings to all together figure out like what to do and which answers need to, which questions need to be answered. And yeah, we also used, our online portals, our partners. There was some a little drop in interest on the online portals when everything was happening, but we did see that was quickly changing again when everyone realized, well, this is not going to be over anytime soon, and all universities are making efforts to make it still possible to get some education. So from the moment there was more interest again, we then also decided to put some more budget to the program listing and pushing our programs. And a lot of these partners also tried to reinvent some of the tools they already had. I think there was a positive and a negative on that, because they had to figure out, like, what are we going to offer? What is it going to cost? What is possible? So there was a little delay there, because it had to be communicated to us as a recruitment team. And then we also had to do it internally and discuss with certain programs, like, okay, what are we going to do then? So we had some direct email campaigns that we did specifically for programs. We did some general campaigns. We did remarketing campaigns, social media campaigns. So we tried out a lot of different things. On top of that, what we did do was using our own social media platforms more. So as a university, we have a Facebook page, but on top of that, our international relations office has one as well. And I have a colleague who is then in charge of this page, so we could easily do some Facebook campaigns through that Facebook page. We did promotion of specific programs, our faculties and all their programs, just, you know, promoting the fact that we were still accepting students, and our online info sessions. That was something brand new for us, and I think we're very excited about it, that this was possible. So we do have our physical, you know, on-campus open days, but we don't really have international students traveling all the way to Brussels for this. So now with the online info sessions, we could actually talk to prospective students without them having to physically be with us. So these general sessions I would be coordinating and holding, and on top of that, we had program-specific sessions. That was not on one specific day. All the programs could decide whenever they had time. Some did only a few weeks, others did for a very, very long time, just to convince more students to do so. And it really depends for each faculty and program, actually, who would give these sessions. And often these were professors as well. So they're not trained to actually give these sessions, but they did their utmost best to give a good presentation. I also would like to talk about a bit admissions, because for a recruitment team, this is as important as well, because we have to communicate it to the students. And as I said, we were very much involved in different kind of meetings to make some decisions. One of the first questions we definitely have is, are your application deadlines going to change? So in Belgium, the lockdown happened the mid of March, so very close to our non-EA deadline. So we decided not to change it, because we do know that students who apply very last minute, closer to the deadline, sometimes already struggle with the visas. And now with all visa centers closed, we knew this was not going to be a good idea. So that also means that the past semester, we could completely focus on recruiting for EA students, because their deadline is the 1st of September, which is pretty late. So again, we do not change that deadline, that was always there. One of the requirements that a student needs to meet is having the right level of English. And one of the ways they can prove that is by sending us a language test. Of course, language centers were closed, and there were some online options, and two of the options that we decided to accept as well was the TOEFL and the IELTS test. But these tests were not available in China and Iran, which are actually our top two non-EA countries where we have international students from. So for them, we decided then to accept to organize interviews and assess their English level in that matter. But this was, of course, not possible for all the programs, and is something that we still try to push, is like, try to prove your English proficiency by one of the ways that we normally accept, just because we don't have the capacity to take care of all these interviews. And thirdly, we also have a conditional letter of acceptance. So this is very normal for our university. This is not something just Corona time related. So we always need students to show their physical copies of their documents, such as their diploma, when they enroll. Now we did decide, of course, for the safety and just being possible for international students to enroll to go completely online. So it was for international students as well for domestic students. But then we were here facing the fact that, well, we still need their documentation to be confirmed. So our admissions office then decided that students should contact their home university and send just an email to the admissions office to confirm like this student got his degree and that time, and that would be enough. And there we saw that this was, of course, not a practice that a lot of universities were used to. So students were quite stressed about it, that their university was not replying, their university was closed, their university replied like, I'm sorry, we will not accept your request, and it has to come from the university itself. So at one point, our admissions office also then realized like, well, there are a lot of students just stuck at that process and they won't be able to enroll. So they then decided to go through the whole list of applicants, and all the universities, you know, that we are used to, like that we have connections with, that we have always a lot of students from, that we know how what these documents look like. They would then manually accept these as well. But there was also some universities that students were still asked to arrange something with their university, or us trying to contact their university to still get the confirmation that we needed. So yeah, communication is definitely key in the whole pandemic. As you, David, you have Brexit. We are a university in Belgium, and we had, yeah, well, Corona, and unfortunately our numbers weren't so great, and we were very much discussed in the media. And us as an international recruitment team, we were very worried that we had no control about all this publicity and what this would actually do to the interest in our country. In preparation to this session as well, I did ask around a bit, like if my colleagues remembered a lot of concerned messages just because of this media outlets. And actually, they didn't really remember that much. So it's hard for us to ever know if all of this attention had a negative effect on the amount of students applying or deciding then not to come and study in Brussels. But we are pretty sure that it also depends a bit on the nationality of students, because I also know that some students just say like, I will wait a year, but I'm still interested. Students who just are not interested anymore, we will not be able to ever contact them to ask them. And we also know from other countries as well, and students coming from there, it's like, well, I'm pretty sure that we have a similar situation, or maybe even worse, but we're just not communicating about it. So they said like, I will definitely take a chance, because this is like my only year that I can go and study somewhere. So COVID update wise, we had our own specific page, of course. We had a mailbox, we had social media that we were using just to explain students and make sure that all the information was available in English on what on national level was being decided and what our university was deciding. And from the moment our programs knew what they were going to do next academic year, we definitely asked them to put this on their program page, because they're in control of it. Next to talking about like all the measures, we definitely found it important to talk about other things, maybe Corona related, but just showing something positive and showing that we are also thinking about our current students, not just prospective students. So students who were having a difficult time that now had to study online, which they were not used to. They were getting some help from the Study Guidance Center. We were talking about what our researchers were doing and actually all the impressive things we did, just to also interact, of course, with our current students and then with our prospective students, seeing what was happening at our university. And then, of course, once there was more information about what academic year 2020-21 was going to look like, we definitely put everything on our website. We also have program pages to have links on there. We have a Back to Campus website where we have a full-on FAQ with all the questions students can have, just to reassure them that we are thinking of them. We are updating this regularly, and we even created these little videos which we all put together about studying then at the VUB in 2020-21, with an introduction of our rector and just frequently asked questions, you know, that could be put in this video. So the video itself was in Dutch, but completely subtitled in English, which I think is really good and definitely a step forward for us as a university to make more content, and content that was really necessary in the moment. Now, where do we go from here? I think a lot of lessons learned throughout the presentation. I was already talking about like some things that were more difficult for us. What we see is that application-wise, our numbers were quite similar or even better than the year before. And we heard the same trend from other Belgian universities, definitely the Flemish universities. Enrollment-wise as well, at some points, like the enrollment numbers were higher in comparison to the previous year. But there needs to be a big side note here, like don't just think that these numbers can be just communicated to everyone, because we know that a lot can still change. We have programs that do have a deadline to arrive on campus because they cannot continue with remote teaching. We have programs that go fully online for a whole semester or for a whole year. So it's very different and it really depends on the program. So therefore, we also have a deferral option, and we're still working on the full-on policy, but we do know that students will then also opt for this option and then will decide to enroll next year. So these numbers will definitely change. But at the moment, the numbers still look good. But then if you would ask us, what do you think the impact has on your student population for this academic year? Only time will tell. We don't know yet because there are certain deadlines and factors we need to keep in mind. What we did do is, so we communicated more throughout the departments and realizing we all had to go in the same way and think in a similar way. So we had meetings, and now we're actually continuing with that. We have a working group now focused on internationalization and what to do with the pandemic and maybe after the pandemic. And so this working group is really focusing on recruitment and on the admission. And we're using this scheme of, in a crisis situation, what did you stop doing and what do you want to have back, or what will you definitely not pick up again, and what was new, what you want to keep, or what you now want to get rid of once maybe the crisis is over. And a lot of different departments and different cells and so on will be working together, and we're figuring that out, like to just see the connection again, that we are as a whole community, that someone else already said, as you are as a university, you have to work together and you have to communicate. So I think that's definitely something positive about this whole situation. Now, so what I'm saying, like, we're definitely moving forward, and there are some future actions on the left that we are sure that we will continue, and then on the right, some things that we are now discussing about. So data-driven marketing recruitment, we have been working on dashboards in the previous years, and they're getting better. But with the crisis situation, we also saw that all of a sudden, certain dashboards were being created, and it was possible to create them. So now we just want to fine-tune them and make them even collect more of the data that we will need in the years to come. Recruitment fair-wise, this semester we're really focusing on virtual fairs. We're trying out different formats, and I do then expect that we might do a combination of physical and virtual fairs. And on top of that, using more of our ambassadors and just people at the embassies to be our representatives, thinking at the same time about just the environment and not always traveling far away when you could do it through someone else. Online info sessions were very interesting. Like, we're happy that we could start doing this. Everyone seemed interested to continue with this. So having a combination of physical info sessions and virtual ones. And here we then just think as a team as well, we want to go and talk to all these professors and the people going to give these sessions and give them a little training and to see and fine tune a bit like what they can do to promote the programs. More and better internal communication, I think that's just the case at all times. We saw that it's very important that we keep communicating that we do need each other. So we will just keep working on this. Then on the right, some things that's why there's also a question mark in my title on future activities. We want to focus more on lead nurturing, because that's something that we as our team, we are not fully in control of. We are working with a different department, and we are now in discussions to like, how can we make sure that we are communicating with more of our applicants and keeping them motivated so they actually enroll. Chatbots, as you were saying yourself, David, like, we are also in contact now with Unibody or looking at something similar, because we were overloaded with questions, and maybe a chatbot can really help to filter out like very general questions already. So we're looking into this, and we saw that this year it was possible to be more flexible admission-wise. such as language requirements and maybe deferral options. So something that we want to push as a team as well, to maybe make possible for the years to come, because I think it will only be more positive for the amount of students that then in the end will enroll at our university. And then I would like to end with just this idea again, like the whole situation, it's difficult. We're not, well, it isn't over yet, but I do think that our university realizes more that our international students are important, that international student recruitment is very important, and that we need to work on it. We need to communicate more externally and internally, and now it's really just about moving forward and going in the same direction. So thank you very much. So my name is Daisy. If you saw something in this presentation, thought like, oh, we did the same thing or we did something completely different, feel free to contact me. I would love to hear about your experiences as well.
Great, thanks Daisy. A really comprehensive overview of how your institution and your team have responded, and I think you can clearly see that you've taken some opportunities there to make the best of